Looking to the end of my time at the college and forward into my future career, I wondered about all the possibilities of where I may end up teaching and what I may end up teaching. And when considering all the subjects to learn throughout our 4 years at Red River, welding had to be one of the ones that I was least confident in. I didn't really know how to set up a MIG welder on my own, how to troubleshoot problems, and most importantly, I really didn't have great welding techniques. So I asked myself, what activities do I need to engage in or experiences do I need to get so that I feel comfortable enough to teach welding? And this had brought me back to a booklet we had made for our bedside cabinets where we had to go over the entire process step by step and create a guide into building it. And I was quite proud of the way mine turned out. And although I had already made two of these cabinets beforehand, I found that creating that step-by-step guide on how to build the cabinet really elevated my understanding of the project. So I decided to do the same thing for the MIG welder and create a guide on setting up, tearing down, and troubleshooting the machine. I also included good and bad example welds, such as too little voltage or no gas beads. Additionally, because I had the opportunity to create this booklet, I would also be able to make it for students that I may have in the future. And after all, I've long believed that the best way to learn something is to teach it to someone else. However, there's one issue with simply doing a booklet. Only doing example welds on coupons can be very different from doing welding in a more practical area. So I decided to combine two of my big picture goals and make a fire pit at the end for a more practical example of my welds. The booklet turned out exactly as I had planned. It worked perfectly in giving myself a deeper understanding of the MIG welder. I covered each topic I wanted to with plenty of visuals to go along with the writing. And I even included things such as safety, like spark testing the helmet before you use it and preparing your workspace to weld. And one of the things I'm most proud of with my booklet is that every visual example here is one of my own. I was able to practice enough and be confident enough in my welds that I could put them into my booklet as here's a good example of what a weld should look like, which was one of the biggest challenges for me going into this project. On a more technical side of things, I was quite happy with my implementation of navigation throughout the document. This is something that I could hang a QR code in a welding booth for students to use when they need help. And for the ones who literally cannot be bothered to scroll past the first page, there's a table of contents with hyperlinks that'll take them exactly where they need to go. What had turned out considerably different than I had initially planned was the fire pit. And with plenty of time left in the semester, I really got to take this project to a higher level than I initially set out to do. When I initially prototyped this in 3D modeling software, it was basically a monolithic cylinder with some pegs for feet, and it really got to be a lot better than I had initially hoped for. So that was all very positive. I'll now talk about some struggles. Welding practice did not get off to a great start. I welded multiple wires to contact tips, some which were fixable, some not so much. I somehow managed to melt an entire contact tip, and upon showing this to someone in my feedback network, who is a journeyman welder, he responded with, and I'm quoting here, "Bro, I have never once seen anyone do anything like this before." And he then explained to me that I was running the welder way too hot and holding the gun far too close to the metal, that I should be keeping it about 3/4 of an inch away. After that, things got much better and I was able to practice enough to get some good pictures from my booklet. Now, when it came to the fire pit, as I said, my plan was initially just basically a simple monolithic cylinder made from sheet metal that I could bend up right here in B125. However, that was where my first issue came in, and we couldn't bend any of the metal that was ideally thick enough for a fire pit. So I collaborated with Gord, and he was able to take me down to the sheet metal shop where we could properly roll out the 11 gauge steel that I had plasma cut my name into for the sides of the fire pit. Now when it came to the bottom of the pit, because this is sitting on legs, I initially was just going to tack weld a solid round piece of steel to the bottom. However, after talking with Joseph, what I ended up designing in CAD was a gear-like shape, which I was able to plasma cut on the CNC that allowed for far more airflow into the pit. Welding on this bottom was some of the best beads I've ever done. I was really proud of the work I did there. Except for that one. Don't look at that one. It didn't happen. Concerned about metal warping from heat, Matt had suggested some triangles to reinforce the sides. I also designed and cut these out on the plasma CNC. And on top of that, Ken and Gord had also suggested that I finish the outside and bottom of the pit with some high heat spray paint to protect it from rust, which really gave it a polished look. And also in the rust protection area, I had added some round bases to the feet so water wouldn't get inside of them. Overall, both aspects of this project turned out awesome. The extra time I ended up having for this project and my professional learning in that work really helped me take it to more than I had initially imagined. While in comparison to the fire pit, the booklet wasn't necessarily as flashy or taken to quite the next level, at the end, I created exactly what I set out to make. And from my experience, simply doing that is in itself an accomplishment. So when it came to the initial question, did I solve the problem of what activities do I need to engage in or experiences do I need to get so that I feel comfortable enough to teach welding? And I would say that's a resounding yes. I am so much more confident with welding now, especially doing the final welds in my pit at the end. I felt like I was just flying through it with ease, and that's something I don't think I could have seen myself doing at the beginning of the year.